everyone to our Friday Community Fit class, the first one in our 6-week series for our Adjusting to Change Toolkit. James is here and he's going to tell you a bit more about this special class that he's curated for you. I'm here to answer any questions. I already see we have some questions in the chat, so I will get to those. Just quickly, by a show of hands, let's see, we've got about 20 people on. How many of you are brand new to CommunityFIT? You've never taken a CommunityFIT class? Just an emoji actually would be better for me to see. If you can send up a little emoji. Brand new. Okay, we got a few. Awesome. Welcome. Thank you. And then those of you who are returning, send up an emoji who you've taken at least one CommunityFIT class. Yeah, and then of course, I know we all see the names of those who have been with us for a long time, so thank you for coming back. So happy Friday. Like I said, James is here. He is about ready to get started. If you have any questions during the class, I'm here to answer them, and so is Raymond. Otherwise, James can answer questions after the class today. So with that, I will hand it over to James.
Thank you, Alicia. You got those good glasses on again today.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. We appreciate you being here with us. As Alicia asked, about who's new to CommunityFIT in general, I'm interested to know, do we have anyone's first time? And it may be that you are brand new to CommunityFIT. It may be that you're just brand new to this class. Can you give me an emoji for if this is the first time you've ever taken a nervous system regulation class with me, whether that was Stress Toolkit, whether that was Community, or it's this class. So we do have some brand new folks. Awesome. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, I am James, and I'm sort of the host here at CommunityFIT. I do the majority of the teaching with Alicia. And we're super excited for all of you new faces to be here with us. We're also super excited when anyone who's been with us for a while decides to come back. And some of the names I see on here have been people that have been with us since live in-person park days and have followed us into the virtual arena. So thank you so much. I want to start off with a little bit of context setting as to what this is, because this is a brand new class format for us here at CommunityFIT. It's going to be very similar to some of the classes we have done in the past, specifically those nervous system regulation classes, whether it was Stress Toolkit, Stress Reset, Community, all of the other ones. Very similar work. We're going to borrow from all of that. So if you've been with us for a while, a lot of this is going to be diving deeper into some stuff. There'll be some review, some diving deeper into some of the stuff, and then some new stuff in there. So what are we doing? The ACT program, Adjusting to Change Toolkit, is something that I've been working on for a while. Let's talk about what this thing is. Well, if we were to go back into history and talk about Stress Toolkit or Community, you can see Bob. If you need a little dopamine hit, you got Bob the dog back over here. He's my co-host. When we're talking stress, when we're talking calmness, groundedness, if we're talking any of that, when you hear any of that stuff, just hear nervous system regulation. It's like the fancy terminology for all of that stuff together. Bob did get a haircut. I saw Alicia's chat in there. Nervous system regulation work is what is the bucket that all of that fits in. And what tends to dysregulate us or make us anxious or depressed is change. And so whenever we're talking stress, overwhelm, burnout, trauma, we're talking about change. And we talk about change in the workplace quite a bit, right? We have organizational change management. That's my practice. We've got big programs that change, cultural change, blah, blah, blah. We also think about change at home. It could be a new move. It could be a wedding, a coming together, a new relationship. Could be a divorce, a separating. Could be a birth. It could be a death. Could be a divorce. It could be a changing of jobs, a new work, could be all sorts of stuff. Could be political. It could be a move across the country. It could be a changing of seasons. And the way our nervous system, your nervous system responds to something can vary greatly, dependent upon a lot of things, dependent upon the training you have to kind of understand and contextualize what's happening, the way that interfaces or holds hands with your previous history, the way you grew up understanding change, the way you learned through life and through work to understand change. And when I say understand change, it's not the thinking about, right? It's the way your brain responds to the impulses that are happening in the body. Because that stress thing happens when change happens too fast, too soon, and you feel kind of unprepared for it. Or that change goes on for so long with you not receiving enough of what you want and what you need, when you're not receiving enough support, understanding, context about why it's happening, and the nervous system goes, I don't like this. No thanks. And then we start to develop stress, tension, anxiety, overwhelm, depression, disassociation, disembodiment. And all of that leads to be quite frank, the majority of our aches and pains, the majority of our inflammation, the majority of compromise, the majority of relationship issues, communication issues, the majority of like our mental fatigue, our mental block, pretty much all of the stuff that you're like, I don't want that. I don't want that in my life, is due to nervous system dysregulation caused in some way, shape, or form by change. So, what is the ACT program? What is Adjusting to Change Toolkit? Well, we're going to go over the toolkit, right? We're going to go over some basic somatic practices that help you to put your oxygen mask on first, right? To kind of understand what that might look like, to kind of downregulate, to center, to ground, to relax, to calm. Some of the stuff we've been doing for a while. We're also going to add in some brain stimulation exercises to peak and awaken creativity, neuroplasticity, reshape the brain. Turns out you can actually do that in the positive, to do a lot of that stuff. We may even throw in some communication strategies. We may throw in a lot of stuff, and some of it is going to be guided by what do you need? So at any time in the chat, I don't really check the chat a lot as I'm teaching, but as Alicia said, I'll stick around. I always stick around and read the chat. You can ask Alicia a question. I always will stick around and ask for questions, answer questions. And at any time you're like, oh, if I wish I knew more about this. I want to know more about X, Y, and Z. This other component would help me. Because at the end of the day, you know who owns change in your life? Who owns that process is you. And that's the distinguishing mark between like change being done to you and having all that nervous system regulation stuff happen and you owning and navigating and managing the changes going on, whether that's a put your oxygen mask on first, nervous system toolkit, somatic exercise thing, or how you think about change or navigate change, how you find support in the change, how you find rest in the change, all the stuff that you need. It is for you. So that leads to today's beginning practice. Do you know what the number one thing, well, number one thing in life, the number one tool you can have in life, personal or professional, right? The number one asset, the key that unlocks everything, the point of it all. Any guesses as to what that might be? Where we're going to start off? Think about it. And the answer is, see if we got any guessers here. I'm going to look. No guesses? I'll tell you. The number one thing you can develop is breathing is a very good guess. That's going to be one of the tools. Number one thing you can generate in your life and invest in and figure out and adopt is mindfulness. That's it. Mindfulness. And when we hear mindfulness, we often jump right into like meditation. We often jump right into the practices that kind of teach us mindfulness, and they're not the same. You need to uncouple those things. Let's simplify what I mean when I say mindfulness. Mindfulness is the act of awareness. That's it. Being aware of context and variability. What is going on right now? What's going on in my body? what's going on in the space around me, what's going on with the other people around, who's here, who's not. Is it a sunny day? Is it a cloudy day? Which room am I in? Is there music playing? Is there not music playing? Is Bob the dog here or not here? How do I feel? Being aware of that. And it's not that constant paying attention thing, right? It's not, I have to pay attention all the time to the thing. It's being able to kind of tap in and go, am I aware? Is the room part of my awareness right now? I bet if you thought about that right now, is your room, is the art in your room part of your awareness right now? Probably not. For most of us, not. So we're going to have some practices around that. Is how other people make me feel part of my awareness? Is what I need in rest part of my awareness? And we're just kind of a cultured out of that. I'm going to spend some extra time today on mindfulness. And we're going to kind of talk about that and we'll have some explorations around that. But here's what I want to start with. And I use this um, simile a lot, this anecdote a lot in my teaching. If we were to have a conversation right now, like if we were just sitting across from each other, and I started to ask you about art, what kind of art do you like? Do you like art? Do you pay attention to art? You would likely have an answer. You would go, oh, I like photography, or I like oil painting, I like flowers, or I like abstract, I like people, photos of people, I like drawings of animals, I like bright things, I like dim things. Like you would have an opinion on that. Like you pay attention to that. If I asked you about music, you would have an opinion on that. Do you like rap? Do you like country? Do you like loud music? Do you like soft music? And then the more you learned about it, you'd be able to have a more educated conversation about art and music. If you studied art, you'd be able to talk about brush strokes and composition and color theory and all of that. If it was music, you'd be paying attention to the vocals versus the bass, harmonies versus chords. You'd pay attention to all bridges of music and stuff like that. But even if you didn't study it, even if you didn't spend any time, you would have an opinion. You would know what you liked and what you didn't like. The same thing is true if I asked you about spaghetti. Think back to the time you had the best pasta in your life, and you probably remember it. You probably remember the restaurant. You probably remember the house you were in, what it was. You probably make some version of that at home, or you've had it before, even if it's just simple spaghetti. Like you know how to make spaghetti. And if I went in and tinkered with your spaghetti recipe, you'd be like, this doesn't taste right. This isn't the right thing. I know what I like, right? When I ask people, what do you need to feel better? What do you need right now to feel better? The looks on people's faces of going like, I don't know. I don't even know what that question is. I don't know what I need. More money, maybe? Time off? I don't know. But what would that get you? Like, what do you need in order to feel and be better right now? It's a very difficult question. It is such a difficult question because those kinds of questions have been sort of accultured out of us. We are not taught how to pay attention to what our bodies, our spirits, our souls need in order to navigate life. And that's part of what mindfulness is about. It is paying attention to what is the thing I need right now? What's the context of what's happening right now? How's that affecting me? What do I need in order to have a change, a positive change? And noticing that when I get that, how is that different? What is the context then? Knowing that things can change and a lot of that change belongs to you as an ownership, right? So when I'm talking about mindfulness, we're talking about a frame of reference. We're talking about a perception level, and it's a practice, right? I got to keep tinkering and playing and toying with it. And the first step is just going to be to pay attention to like what it is that I like. And as we get into some of the practices, specifically next week, where we really start diving more into nervous system toolkit stuff, like my what I call my like 5 categories of somatic tools. We're going to play a little bit with it today, but next week, really just paying attention to like what is the thing that makes me feel better? What's my resource in this? because your answer and your answer and my answer and Bob's answer is going to be very, very different. And I can't teach and tell you what the right answer is going to be. That's why I say mindfulness is the cue. Mindfulness is the key. Mindfulness is the answer. And mindfulness is going to be the thing that kind of helps us along the journey as we're looking at change, right? Of going, what is my perception of this change that's happening? And do I have the power to see it in a little bit different way when I'm resourced, when I feel supported in a different way? So mindfulness is really the thing we're practicing all along. And we're going to be looking at different tools of how to get there. So that's my overarching mindfulness thing, right? I like to look at it from the neuroscientific point of view. I love all the ancient traditional studies on mindfulness, the meditations, the whatever, but I really gravitate towards the neuroscientific, the empirically studied. And when those two things overlap, it's like, well, Western science and like traditional wisdoms are telling us the same thing, right? This is information that's been with us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And also, MRIs are saying the same thing. There must be some truth in there. Mindfulness is going to be the answer. So how do we practice that? What do we do with that? Great, James. Love it. What next? So let's start with just a basic scanning of the body. Because again, you know spaghetti, you know music, you know art, but do you know what your left big toe feels like right now? That's where we're going to start. Eyes opened or eyes closed. The invitation is for you to just embody and be with, what does your left big toe feel like? Now, I'm teaching from the perspective of my body, totally typical body. Two legs, two arms, everything works as it's supposed to on paper, eyes, full head of hair, like all the things, right? So when I'm teaching, I'm going to be teaching from my perspective because that's the only thing I have when it comes to embodiment. So why do I say that? If you do not have a left big toe, pick another toe. Pick a right big toe. Pick another toe on the left foot. I'm going to cue left big toe. What does your left big toe feel like? What is the experience your left big toe is having right now? And I know for some of you, they're like, this is ridiculous. But I can tell you, I've taught so many classes before with so much complex material. And when I come out of it and I do a survey, I ask, I do a feedback, the thing that people often find most valuable is, oh my God, no one has ever asked me what my left big toe feels like. I have never, out of all the questions I've ever thought about in my entire life, that has never been one of them. So the invitation, what does your left big toe feel like? No need to write it, no need to answer it. This is your experience. And how is that different than your right big toe? And maybe you jump back and forth. What is the experience my left big toe is having? And then you jump to the other side and it's, well, what is happening over here in my right big toe? And I spend a few seconds over there and then I jump back and I'm like, oh, if I'm to give language to that, my left big toe feels a little bit bigger. My left big toe feels a little cooler, feels a little longer. When I jump over to my right big toe, it feels like it's kind of sunk into the ground a little bit more. There's not a lot of energy. It's just kind of sunk, feels a little shorter. It's a little harder for me to sense into that. Like it's much easier for me right now today to kind of feel into and experience my left big toe than it is over on the right side. And I'm just jumping back and forth. I'm just paying attention. Now, move your right foot somewhere else. And I don't care where that somewhere else is. It can go forward, it can go back. You can lift the heel, you can crisscross the right leg over the left leg. Your choice. I don't care what happens with it. Move it somewhere else. How did the experience of your left big toe change? Did it? Might be like, no, didn't at all. Might be like, oh, that feels very, very different. How? We're kind of working right now on our felt sense language. Feeling sense is very different than making sense, right? Making sense is, oh, I just did this thing, and so therefore it should feel like, and my toe feels like a toe because it's connected to my foot, and that's what my toe feels like, right? It's like long sentences that read really good on paper. Felt sense is more like sporadic, chaotic, random words that on paper probably don't make a lot of sense when strung together. Might be like, oh, my toe feels like metallic and like just reminding me of a can of tuna, right? Like, I don't know what that's going to be for you. It might be glimmery. It feels like a desert, or it feels like nighttime or daytime. It reminds me of that time that I was in a hot air balloon, or feels like it's underwater but also on fire. Like, I don't know what that's going to sound like for you because it's your felt sense. But if it doesn't make sense, you're probably on the right path. We're just practicing some skill sets right now. We're going to go somewhere with them, but these are just individual skill sets. Now, put your right foot down wherever it is and move your left foot somewhere else. And just notice how or if that changes anything for you. And then put your feet wherever you'd like. And now maybe instead of the right and left big toe, maybe it's the right foot, the totality of the foot versus left. Now, if you're like, I cannot sense into my feet, or there's a lot of pain there, neuropathy, whatever it is, maybe pick your hands. My right thumb versus my left thumb, or my right hand versus my left hand. Maybe you pick your shoulders. My right shoulder versus my left shoulder, my right hip versus my left hip. Maybe right and left isn't correct for you. Maybe instead, you bisect yourself in half, my low body, my upper body, or my chest versus my back. It's like a compare and contrast. I'm just paying attention to this, and then I change my mind and I pay attention to that. And as I'm paying attention to this, I give it some language. And as I pay attention to that, I give it some language. This versus that. This versus that. Mindfulness 101 can start in your body. You can do it anytime, anywhere. It can be having a conversation with you. And as I'm having a conversation with you, I'm paying attention to right toe versus left, right versus left. I don't need to segment myself off. Meditation is wonderful. And at some point, we'll do some meditation. Meditation is a wonderful tool, but you got to kind of remove yourself, right? Very difficult to do meditation while in conversation. Real hard. Mindfulness is a bigger category. And I think starting with the body gives us a lot of bang for its buck. Number one, not a lot of us are asked about our body. Not a lot of us are advocated to kind of look at that. And why do we know spaghetti and art and music better than you know your home, your body? That is always the biggest question for me. Why do you know rap and spaghetti and Picasso better than you know what your right versus your left toe feels like? Why? How did that happen? How did we get there? And yet, here we are. So, starting off with that is going to give you an embodiment experience, finding home, finding center. So much research on embodiment, so much research on mindfulness. Also, it is a mindfulness practice that you can do quite literally anytime, anywhere. And whether you exercise or you don't, it's the answer to like pain reduction. Mindfulness has been case studied to show there's a 50% reduction in both acute and persistent pain when you have a mindfulness practice. 50% reduction in pain without a pill, without an intervention. 50% reduction. It's also the cue or the answer for better conversation and for understanding and navigating change in your personal life and your professional life. And it starts off with just noticing, right? Now we can take that a little bit deeper. You can start to notice somewhere in your body that feels exceptionally good right now. I know, another hard question. Somewhere in your body that feels exceptionally good. Maybe good feels spacious. Maybe good feels free. Maybe good feels supported. Try just like sitting back in your chair a little bit, adjusting your posture, and just being there. Notice somewhere that feels spacious. Notice somewhere that feels free. Notice somewhere that feels good or better than the rest of the places. You get to decide. And then instead, notice somewhere that feels the opposite of that. So if you thought, oh, I'm in the good place, maybe now you're feeling into the bad place. Maybe at first you were noticing the spot that felt really spacious. And instead you change your mind and you start to notice the spot that feels congested. Like if I'm to guide you through my experience, I mentioned this on Wednesday, I'm getting over a cold. I'm feeling better today than I was on Wednesday and much better than I was the end of last week. However, there's still a little congestion. I'm noticing up here, it's just like my face feels a little bit more narrow, feels a little more congested, a little bit tighter, not as much room in there. In contrast, right now, I feel like my seat, my butt, my bones, my hips, my backside of my legs feels supported, weighted, heavy, spread out, and spacious on what I'm sitting on right now. And if I'm to guide you through my mindfulness activity right now, I'm going to notice the head space, and then I'm going to notice my pelvic space, for lack of better words. I spend a little time paying attention up here and a little time down there. Now, for you, it might be different. It might be like a shoulder and a knee. It might be right foot versus left foot. It might be the front of your body versus back of your body. Maybe for you, you're like, I can't find a good area. I've just got a lot of pain going on, emotional pain, physical pain, whatever it is. I got pain going on. Cool. Here's what we do. I notice the pain, physical pain, emotional pain, distress, preoccupation, whatever it is that like, I don't like this thing. I notice that. And then we're going to open our eyes and we're going to find something in the room that brings joy, that brings calmness, that brings peace. Examples include, but aren't limited to, the trees outside, your dog or your cat, that beautiful painting, the picture of your family, the book that you love, a plant in the room, a shadow on the wall moving, whatever it is, something in your space right now that sparks a little joy, that is beautiful, that grounds you, that reminds you of something you love. And if you don't have that in your space right now, maybe you need to add something to your space because we are not separate from our space. We're holding hands with our space. So if you're looking around, you're like, I don't got nothing right now. Maybe homework would be bringing a piece of art, a photo, a plant, a whatever it is, right? So you can just kind of noticing, oh, I don't feel good inside. And I notice that. And then I look out, oh, but that's beautiful. And I can be there for a moment. Then I go back in and I'm noticing and I'm noticing. Now, here's the thing, whether you're noticing inside and outside, right foot versus left foot, spacious area to not spacious area, stick with that. Noticing, 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 noticing. And notice how the more you do that, things change a little bit, right? It may be that you feel better in the area that didn't feel good. Oh, my head feels a little more spacious. My foot feels a little bit better. My shoulder feels a little bit better. Or you may notice that you can be with whatever pain there was a little bit longer. Oh, I can pay attention a little bit longer with my wonky hip, right? Whatever it is, because I'm paying attention out there. It's like I'm getting a good thing and I'm getting a not good thing. And I'm here and I'm there and I'm here and I'm there. Mindfulness 101. Now, next week, we're going to go into the toolkit work, which kind of helps reorganize some of this. It's a different version of resource. It immediately calms us down and over time builds up fortitude and resilience. And someone named it today. What do we always start with within the toolkit? Breath work. We'll get there. For today's practice, here's the invitation. Notice something that feels less comfortable, right? A heart pain, like something weighing on your chest, or a thought, preoccupation, or a physical pain. And just notice that for a moment. Then take a short inhale and an exaggerated exhale. Short inhale, exhale. A few more of those. Quick inhale, long, exaggerated exhalation. And then do a check-in. Like, did anything change in my experience? Am I able to notice something different? Did anything shift and change? When you actively chose to do an exhalation, long, prolonged exhalation, which is a nervous system cue to downregulate, relax, center, ground, feel better, how did it impact your nervous system? What shifted? What changed? Are you able to be with the thing for a little bit longer? Are you able to see it differently? Did the whole experience shift and change? And as you go and do more breath work or orientation, looking around for something pretty, how does the physical experience, the thing you were paying attention to, that awareness factor, shift and change? Now, what does all this have to do with mindfulness? Well, you just practice mindfulness. I'm paying attention to something, then I'm looking at the context around me and I shift the context, whether that's I'm paying attention to the thing that didn't feel good, and then I'm paying attention to the thing that does feel good. And then when I come back to the thing that didn't feel good, I'm paying attention to variability. Did it change at all? Context and variability equals signs mindfulness. Paying attention to something, looking at something, shifting the context, checking back in, noticing change. Another way you can practice mindfulness and your homework. I want you to set your alarm for 77 minutes from now. Like pick your phone up, set it for 77 minutes. Check in with your body. And that's when that alarm goes off, what am I feeling right now? And what's going on around me that's contributing to the way I'm feeling. Then set an alarm for like 15 minutes later, 16 minutes later, 2 days later. I don't care. Pick increments. Set the alarm, check in. What's going on around me? How's that impacting me? Set an alarm, check what's going on? How is that impacting me? And we'll meet up next week and we'll continue this conversation of mindfulness, but we're going to look at it through the lens of Toolkit, somatic exercises that are designed to shift and change that experience so you can grow the skill set of mindfulness. Now, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I will stick around. I see we got some chats going on. If you have any direct questions, feel free to ask. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. So we do have questions just around the recording. So what I will say, I just want to be completely honest about what is going on right now. It is open enrollment season for health plans, for employer groups. So our marketing department is pretty bogged down with tasks. So getting these recordings turned around in a quick time is probably not going to happen. However, they will be available eventually. So what I am going to offer to you is if you first, I'd ask that you just really try to make the classes each week because they're going to build upon each other. But if you absolutely can't make a class, please just email me and I will get you the raw video and I'll send it to you because I know these classes are going to be really important and you won't want to miss any of them. So I'll do my best to get you the raw video. They will be posted probably after the 6-week session. I did just include the link to last session's classes, which are all fabulous. Everything that James teaches, it's fabulous. So if you do want to maybe even learn a little bit of what you're going to be learning, you could probably find that through the link that I just posted as well. But I'll put both of our emails in here so you can definitely ask us questions. You can ask me for the raw video anytime. And with that, I don't know, James, are there any questions in there for you?
No, there's lots of love for Bob the dog. On the book, no, You Are Not Your Pain. I have not read that, but I will definitely check that one out. I also wanted to comment on what Alicia posted there, those videos. Yes, last season, so spring, we did a very long season. We did like 6 months straight. And so that sort of gave me the idea to kind of shift and change that because last season we did like month-long increments on like mindfulness, month-long increments on trauma, month-long increments on stress. So there's some deep dive stuff in on there, which I think would be a really good resource for people who are like, I love this and I want more of this. I want more detail. As Alicia said, we get the comment every year like, oh, this for good and for bad. Oh, this class feels more like a course. You are correct. This class is designed more like a course. You can get a lot of it. You can come in, you can come out, but that's also why we're doing like these 6 week segments so that it's easy to stay dedicated to 6 weeks. Like 6 weeks, if you miss one class, cool. When we start getting those 6 months things, it's really hard to like commit every Friday to a 6 month thing and stay dedicated to that. And then you feel like you kind of drop off. So if you do have available every Friday, this will build upon itself. And then we'll sort of decide next go round. If we get a lot of the same people, then that will build, or it will be an amalgamation of like we get some new stuff and some old stuff. Like we don't know yet. So this is really going to be dependent upon what it is you all need.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, James. And I just have to say that I've never seen Bob look so bare. He actually usually looks like Bob Ross with the big crazy doodle hair. And I was like, who is that dog? I
Who
don't
is that dog? I
recognize.
know this is his like I'm a pointer haircut. Like he
He
looks like a
look-
little sporting dog. So Bob, this is Bob the dog. And Bob, for those of you who don't know him, Bob is an Italian water dog. And so he's not a doodle, he's a pure breed. He's an Italian water dog, and Italian water dogs turns out love water. So we spend the majority of the summer in the pool. And so we go swimming every night. And Bob's hair, it's funny, Bob's hair and water don't agree. And so they get really matted, really felted, and that's part of the breed. They're designed to do that. They're hunting dogs. They're supposed to go on brushes and all sorts of stuff. So their fur mats and becomes like a little shield, but it mats and it felts. And so this is what happens at the end of the summer almost every year is he gets a full body shave because everything is like one big mat on him.
That's adorable. Well, I'm not going to
Yeah.
show you my dogs right now because I've been trying to groom them myself and I haven't figured it out. So,
It's a learning curve.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Huge learning curve. Daisy looks like a Q-tip right now. So anyhow,
That's what we
love our
thought was
dogs.
going
You
to
guys are
happen.
always going to hear about our dogs. We'd love to hear about yours too.
We love if you got dogs and you want to like
Or
share
cats.
stories, cats, dogs, birds, rabbits, whatever
All
it
of it.
is. We love all of them. Yeah,
Awesome.
also Bob had an ear procedure done. He had like a little abscess on the inside of his ear flap. Everything was benign, everything was good, but he did have to have surgery, and so his grooming happened simultaneously when he was in a cone. And at first we thought, oh, they're gonna have to shave his body and leave his big old bouffant head, but luckily the groomer was able to make it work.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I love seeing him. I'm glad he's okay.
Yes.
All
Everything
right,
is good.
everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around for our little
For our
dog
dog talk.
conversation. We'll see you Wednesday or Friday next week. Bye.
Bye, everybody.